Hey, welcome back, parents. Listen, thanks for sharing our episodes with people in your circles. This is awesome. I have some new download stats for you. So, our podcast has now been downloaded in 292 cities and 22 different countries. This is insane. And it's all because of our listeners. You are so faithful in texting our episodes out to people in your network and forwarding our Tuesday email newsletters to people in your contact list. So please know that that makes a great impact for us, and it's really helping us to spread this message far and wide. So I'm super grateful for you. Listen, today on our show, we have an award-winning leadership coach who has co-founded a foundation called the Girls Rule Foundation. And she has founded this organization with three like-minded women who share her passion for advancing the next generation of female leaders. And with the belief that leadership starts young, Girls Rule equips girls with essential skills in self-esteem, leadership, and financial literacy. Praise God. These are all great character strengths and skills that we definitely endorse here at Families of Character. And their foundation hosts all kinds of really awesome workshops, summer camps, and after school programs for girls that provide them with the tools to thrive in life and to step confidently into their potential as tomorrow's leaders. So, our guest, Dena, is dedicated to helping individuals really embrace their greatness, unlock their potential, and create a ripple effect of leadership and empowerment in their communities and in their families. So, welcome to the show, Dena Patton.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on this amazing show that you have.
Well, absolutely. So, you are married and have your own children, and you also have this like fiery passion for parenting with greatness, like
Yes.
really just trusting yourself and your tools to get through hard times. So, tell us a little bit about your own family and where this passion for parenting with greatness comes from.
Thank you. Well, I do have a junior in high school. She's 17. So, all y'all who are in the teen years, I am with you. So,
Yes.
not only do I work with teen girls and in Girls Rule, but all the stuff is going on at home. And I'm a law enforcement wife. And so, my husband is a 26-year law enforcement. And, one of the things that we really decided very early on was to parent with purpose and intention and to break the cycles of some stuff that we didn't get in
Mm,
our childhood. We all know that parents aren't perfect. We are not trying to be perfect. We didn't have perfect parents, but we wanted to really look at what are some things that went in our own childhood that we didn't get, that we want to be on purpose on, in bringing into our family, into our values, into our parenting, and just really get intentional and purposeful and faithful around our parenting. And it's my number one job in life is to be a great mom. And that comes before my two businesses, before all the other roles in my life. And it takes it's not easy. It takes a lot of work to be an on purpose parent. But you know what? We fall in love with progress, not perfection. If
mm.
you think parenting, like your whole game is to be a perfect mom, to be a perfect dad, that's just the wrong game. You're going to end up in shame and failure because we all make mistakes and there's no perfection. So, that's really the essence is we started out with that like intention very young. And, we're in this new phase right now because she just started driving and has her own, job. And so we're getting, we just went from, you're driving your little one around for 16 years and then boom, they have a license, they have a car, they have a job. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have literally a mini adult right now. So new season, really new season. It's awesome.
Yes. Well, you said it, like you spend all these years driving them around and they're totally dependent on you, and then one day they're not. They get the
Yep.
keys and they pass the test, and this life of freedom and independence opens up, and then you're like setting them free out there. And you mentioned, this little adult. That's right. We have to
Yeah.
remind ourselves from the time our babies are born that we are raising adults. And
That's
so
right.
we can't do that without being intentional, or the
Yeah.
culture just swallows them up, and then all of a sudden we're in this panic that, like, oops, it's 18 years later, and
Yeah.
then they just sort of turned out how they turned out. So I love that you said you and your husband decided early on that you were going to parent on purpose and parent with intention.
Yeah. It is, I see, unfortunately, not only in our own community and friend groups, but I see it a lot in Girls Rule where, their girl becomes a junior or senior and then the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh gosh, I got to get self-management skills in, financial literacy still in, time management skills, food management. If they're 18 and they're moving out, whether it's to college, workforce, moving out on their own, those skill sets of, self-management, time management, money management, food management, they've got to know those. And at 18 isn't the time to be learning those. It's, it really starts really young, but that super intentionality starts about 12 is what I coach, is that 12 to 18, you're really clicking into a new level of responsibility. And, when they're young, we're many, doing many things like that, right? Like keeping their room clean or their little chores. There's little seeds and possibilities of responsibility and self-management. But once they turn that 12-ish, 13, you don't want to like introduce them to responsibility at 12 or 13. They should have those little opportunities along the way. And then we're cranking that up at that 12 and 13 because we know high school's hard. You have to really, you have to use those skills in high school. But then once they get out, it's 100% on their own, so it's a major thing. But I always say we only get 18 summers with our kids. So not only are we putting character and values and skill sets in our kids, right? Because we are raising adults. But you're all on the personal side, you're trying to get faith in them. You're trying to get connection with them. You're trying to create memories. Like we just took my daughter and 5 friends camping because I am really passionate about creating memories, just that intentionality, whether it's a pool party or it's a camping trip. Like I think parents, we get so busy with our own life and survival and bills and marriage and all the things. Like, what are you doing, to create connection just in those little everyday moments in the kitchen, right? Just leaning in for a hug or an emotional connection because our kids need it. Although they'll roll their eyes and be like, Mom, I don't need a hug, right?
Right.
And I was like, well, I need a hug, and we have to stop being offended. Like,
Yes.
especially if you have a teenager, they are going to say hurtful things like, don't give me a hug or I don't like you or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but I love you. Like, like you can't let your teenager stop your love. I actually have a friend who has really gotten really hurt by her son's teenage attitude, right? And she's like, I don't even want to talk to him. I don't want to hug him. I don't want to do anything for him. Like we can get hurt and offended when you got to pray about it. I mean, God will help you through that and take that offensive-ness off so you can find your love again. But we have to sometimes, what I've learned is sometimes I just have to be light about it. Of like when she doesn't want to hug, I'll like be funny about it. I'm like, well, I gotta get my one hug in, for the day. And she's like, okay.
Yes.
But those memories are like, think about us, whatever your childhood was. It was good, it was bad, it was all over the place, but there was a couple good memories in there somewhere. We want to do that intentionally. And sometimes it's the smallest things, like walking to the ice cream store and getting an ice cream and just checking in with them, right? Don't make it too heavy. Just check, what's up? What's up with your friends? How are you? Right? Hey, that thing that happened a couple months ago, how are you about that? These kids right now are dealing with a lot. I don't know about you, but I mean, we've had a couple suicides in our school.
Yes.
We have hard things going on. We have kids that their parents are fighting and divorcing. That's so traumatic on our kids, right? So, although maybe your kid isn't going through something right now, but they're seeing someone go through something, right? And so they still need that emotional, like they're seeing the trauma or they're seeing the divorce. And of course it's running, well, are you and dad getting divorced? Like they're
Right.
scared, right?
Yes.
So just leaning in sometimes of just like, how you doing? And hey, what are your thoughts about that? And just letting them talk to you. Like, so these are, it's these little moments that I feel like don't dig too much or they'll turn off, right? Like it's just being light and checking in emotionally and making memories. That's the phase we're in right now.
I love it. Making memories and being intentional about
Yeah.
planning those little outings that they can call to mind when they are adults, right? So,
Yes.
one of the activities I'm having parents do in our date night events that we host once a month is just simply reflecting back on their own childhood and thinking, like,
Mm,
what types of things did my parents do
yeah.
that created a fun summer memory for me, right? And
Yeah.
so, and then like what feelings come up when you remember that camping trip? Well,
Hmm.
I remember just feeling like this appreciation for nature at a
Yeah.
young age or whatever.
Right.
Okay. So would you like your child to experience an appreciation for nature? Yes. Okay, then what can you do as parents today
Yes.
intentionally to make that happen for your own kids, right? And so reflecting back on our own childhood, some people I think kind of poo-poo that and they go like, "Oh, it's in the past, and if it was ugly, I don't want to look at it." But
Yeah.
it's important. I'm glad to hear you say that,
Yeah.
you reflect back and look there so that it can
Yeah.
inform where you're going next, what you want to take and what you want to get rid of.
Get rid of, right? You have to have that discernment. And you can, one of my favorite words is you can leave the negative in the past and take the lessons and the memory of the good, because that is data. Our past is data that we can really use for good. And I had a pretty traumatic childhood. It's why I'm really passionate about giving my daughter a healthy, balanced, good childhood, but helping other girls have a good childhood, right? And I think that it's important to have the courage to look in our past and look at the negative, because you can learn from it. Know better, do better. You can say,
Yes.
you know what? This was not good in my childhood. This was not good. This was not good. How can I do better? And that's the lessons that I think are really powerful from our past, and not just shoving it, in the sand and never looking. Let's take those things that were hard and learn and do those better. But let's find the good things that were really good and say, how can we duplicate that now? And it's such powerful wisdom and nuggets that we can bring into our own intentionality. And I think it's important to understand. Zig Ziglar, I pulled up this quote. It says, "Children go where there is excitement, they stay where there is love." And I just love that, because I like exciting things. And I was definitely the kid that was like, "Oh, that looks fun over there," right? That's exciting. But they come back to where they feel loved. And really, at the highest level, if you're an aunt, if you're an uncle, if you're a grandparent, if you're a parent, you have a responsibility to your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, to love them, and in your own way, you know? And I think when you take that on as a responsibility, like, how am I doing as a loving aunt, right? Or a loving uncle? I think it just, we can take that inventory and go, I need to lean into them a little bit more
Yes.
and have the courage to do that. Unfortunately, my brother just recently passed away, and he has a son, and his son was 24. And I've always had a relationship with them, but, I took my own inventory and I said, I need to step it up as an aunt in his life, being
Mm.
more intentional to call him, invite him over for dinner, lean into him. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 29 years. He was thinking about his own business. Of course, I'm like, I'm going to support you, right? I'm his biggest champion and helping him start his own business. So there's little things, if you have the courage to lean in and say, you know what, I'm going to love on them just a little bit more. And you're going to be so surprised at how impactful that really is.
Totally agree with what you're saying. And there's always an opportunity to do just like 1% better at
Yeah.
connecting with your
Yeah.
kids. And I love also the idea of, as a couple, taking an inventory of your past so you can learn and appreciate
Yes.
where your spouse is coming from. Because man, when you put two people together who are raised with much different temperaments and
Yes.
upbringings and backgrounds, and then you influence that little, duo influences your children, but you haven't really appreciated where you've come from.
Yes.
That's hard. That there can be a lot of strife. So
Yes.
doing that little exercise and activity with this sense of curiosity about your spouse, like, hey, how did you handle holidays and summers, and what were your favorite memories, is a beautiful thing to bring into
Yeah.
that intentional parenting. And then
Yeah.
also, just like you said, just taking an inventory of the people in your close circle, right?
Hmm.
Your kids, relationship with your kids, how intentional am I being about
Hmm.
that? But then also just like a layer out, my extended family, my nieces
Yeah.
and nephews, my godchildren, right? Like,
Yes.
how am I connecting with them and helping them feel that secure attachment that maybe we didn't
That's
have?
it.
Yeah,
That's it.
so good.
Do they feel like, if here's a hard question that we ask the parents when we're Girls Rule Foundation, when we're doing our programs, we ask the parents, do you feel like if we asked your girls right now that you are a safe, trusted adult in their life, would they say yes or no? And you would think, as a mom and dad, you would be like, of course I am. But you'd be shocked at how many girls, and again, I don't work with boys, but how many girls will say, my mom's not a safe person for me. I mean, do I love her? But as far as like telling her really hard or bad things, like, they don't have that safety right in there. And that is, I think, uh, one of our biggest objectives as parents is learning that secure attachment. How do I, not only for our kids, but I'm committed to being a safe adult for other kids. And we have a lot of kids through our house. We're kind of like the pool party house. And that's one of my biggest objectives, is always creating a safe place that kids can feel very loved, and they know that if something hard happens, that this is a safe house, right?
Mhm.
And that takes some, you have to lean into that. Google, say, being a safe person for kids. Like, there's books on it. Not necessarily training, but there's so much information. I say lean into that. And for you, because it's a privilege being a safe person for a kid. They
Mhm.
might not have that in their parents, and you are the only one for them, right?
Yep.
So it is really important to be that safe place. And, as parents, knowing, another thing that I often see is the difference between enabling and empowering. And
Talk about that. Yeah.
yeah, I see it. And I see this in me, where it's like, I want to do so much for my daughter. And when we have the discernment of enabling versus empowering, we really see the damage we can do when we're constantly enabling our kids, which means we're doing everything for them. At 14, I stopped calling and making appointments for my daughter. She had to learn how to make appointments for her haircut, calling a salon and saying, do you have Tuesday afternoon open? Like, it's such a small thing that we think nothing of it. It's so small, but that one thing, can you take, if you have, a 13-year-old or above, I challenge you, stop making haircut appointments for them. Have them call. Just that one teeny little thing can create courage, build courage. And to call someone a business and ask for an appointment for yourself, or here's a second one that you can do, is a restaurant reservation.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you're going to see a very, very nervous child, but you know what? By the time they do it 4 times, 5 times, they're like, I got this. And that
Yes.
courage translates to other things in their school life, in their, applying for college, of asking for things, because that's really what it is. You're getting on the phone and you're asking an adult, a company, for something, a reservation,
Yes.
right? So these teeny, teeny little things where you don't see it as something big, but it's a place where you can start to build their courage with the outside world, right? And so, but enabling is something that I'm seeing a lot. And, 32% of kids drop out of their freshman year of college because they weren't ready. It's not they weren't smart enough. They weren't ready with the skill sets. I mean, the self-management skill sets that you need when you're 18 and 19 on your own or in college is a lot. But when you've been practicing those things for a few years, you're ready
Yes.
when you leave, right? So parents and grandparents, have that discernment. When you're about to do something that they can do for themselves, stop, take a breath, ask them to do it. And what you're doing is you're building that skill of self-management, self-advocacy, learning how to ask for things, right? How to manage themselves. You start that in high school and you practice that in little ways all over the place for 4 years. They're going to be so set up to be on their own.
Oh, I love it. You are speaking my language. Like, that gives them so much courage
Yes.
to assert themselves down the road with bigger things. Like, I
Yes.
remember one of our guests was talking about how she coaches teens as well, and she said, like, just think about how often your friends will say, hey, let's go grab a Starbucks or Chick-fil-A, and you'll jump in your car and you'll go to the drive-through, and then they're like, oh, yo, I didn't bring my money, like, can you pay? And like, you need to have the assertive skills to be like, I'm not going to pay for yours. You were the one that asked to come. Like,
Right.
you know, uh, I don't want to be taken
Boundaries.
advantage of, right? To have healthy boundaries and to be
Right.
assertive. And so just the other day, my kids saved for a chinchilla. Okay. They had to have like $300 saved to buy a chinchilla. We have no pets, and this is our first pet for now. And my daughter's 10. And I said, well, what are you going to do? Like, you better call the vet and find out, like, does it need a wellness check or whatever? And so she said, oh, I don't know what to say, mom. And so we did a little role play, and
Yeah.
she picked up that phone and dialed, and I could tell her heart was beating fast
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they answered. And she talked to them about everything that this little
Oh,
chinchilla needed. And the person on the other line, I could
you
tell
could
because it was on
tell.
speakerphone,
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, you're calling about your own chinchilla? Oh, great. Do you have it already? No, we don't, but we're getting ready.
Oh,
Okay. Oh,
oh,
this is great. You're calling in advance. I mean, they were just so impressed that this
oh,
someone would be
so
prepared
good.
and have the courage to ask. So I
Yes.
love that you're training girls in
Yes.
assertive communication to have courage and to have that build that confidence they need. It'll also
Yes.
help them to say no to things in teenage
Yeah.
relationships that they really need to be, ready
Yes.
to, fend off and say no to.
Yeah. Well, today's girls, I mean, frankly, I am like, oh my gosh, blown away at what teen girls manage today. The world is moving so fast. They have so much information that they have to discern through. Then they have phone addiction and social media addiction. they're facing challenges that we could have never handled 20, 30,
Never.
40 years ago. But here's the cool thing. There's more opportunities for girls and women today than they ever have been. But here's the negative. This is the stats. I've been doing this for 14 years, and God really knocked on my heart 14 years ago. I've been coaching CEOs and leaders for 24 years. And he said, hello, I need to pull you to girls. Our girls need you. And, I'm only working with thousands of girls, like not hundreds of thousands, not millions. But when God brings you to something, say yes. I said no
Mm.
for a couple years. And then, we finally get the point of maybe God did choose the right person. And 14 years later, I'm still doing this work because girls want to lead. There's opportunities to lead. However, there's still a sticking point. They don't have the skills to lead. Girls do not get the skills to lead until their 20s and 30s. And that is what I'm changing. It was not good enough that really those skill sets of leadership were happening, and financial leadership, confidence were not happening until later college and then early adulthood. So that like 22 to 30. And I was like, girls need it at 12 and 13 and 16 and 18. So they're ready for those opportunities to hit at 22 and 25 and 29. So it's the skill sets that are missing. So we've got they have a willingness and readiness. We have the opportunities, but they don't have the tools. And that's what Girls Roll Foundation does. And I love that you mentioned, or we were, talking about the past. One of the most special things in my childhood that was positive was summer camp. I loved summer camp. Like, everyone raise your hand if you love summer camp, right? Like, I loved summer camp. And it was always kind of this background dream of having a summer camp. Long story short, 10 years ago, we did our first Wings to Fly summer camp. And this year will be July 13th through the 19th, will be our 10th annual summer camp. And it is the most awesome program. Like, I designed it as something that I wish I had when I was little. And these girls literally come in teenagers and they leave leaders 7 days later. It's
Wow.
unshakable confidence, strong leadership skills, and mindsets that help them overcome think about the 4 years in high school, all the temptations, the addictions, the bad people, the influences, like all these things that are just pulling on girls that, we don't have our boundaries learned. We don't have emotional intelligence. We don't have advocacy. Again, all these strong things that later in life we learn, we don't have them at 14 and 16. So what happens is girls get very derailed in these things, right? And our girl statistics are getting worse, not better. So that's where I was like, we have to have a summer camp. And it's extraordinary. So it's my favorite program of everything that we do.
Well, thank you for your obedience because, like you said, God can knock on your heart and you can be like, I don't think so. That's not
Yep.
me. You got the wrong gal here. I'm keyed up for like,
I'm good.
right, right. That is so awesome. Well, when you were talking about that, I just got a little like chill because what it made me think of with your girls' summer camp and equipping them and empowering them to be leaders is exactly what you said is that if they don't have these skills at 12, 13, 14, 15, what happens, and I can say this with certainty as a counselor, is that they get wrecked in their teen years with sexual relationships, with friendships that go wrong, with
Yep.
these pressures to
Yep.
meet people on the internet.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, this sweet little girl that you saw all these leadership qualities in and this
Yep.
passion and that God had marked her for something great gets totally sidelined
Yep.
because now they're dealing with trauma.
Yep.
And when you're wrecked with trauma, it's very difficult to be a leader in
Yeah.
that state of mind. Now,
Yeah.
there's trauma help and healing and all of that, but then again, you delay your future because you have to sit back and dig into this
Right.
healing your trauma because
That's
you
right.
didn't have the skills to say no to some of
No,
those
right.
relationships.
It's
Oh, so
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
so good. Okay, the name of this camp is Wings to Fly.
It's wings. Yeah. Wings to fly. But our website is girlsruralleadershipcamp.org. And it's on our website. Girls Rural Foundation produces it every year. And I'll tell you, so we have 3 pillars of curriculum. It's self-confidence, or sorry, self-esteem and confidence. And then we have our financial literacy, and then our 12 leadership principles. And that's the 3 curriculum pillars of all of our programs. And we have an after school club that any school or group can start in the country. And then we have our annual summit that's every year in the spring. And then we have our annual summer camp. And our summer camp, we only allow 30 girls. It's very high touch, high impact. And so, having 100 girls or 200 girls, you lose a lot of that. And so it's very powerful having a small group. But we hosted up in Sedona, Arizona, which a lot of people know Sedona. It's red rock country. It's gorgeous. We have horses and a creek and just an amazing campus for these girls. We have a lot of girls here from Arizona, but we have girls fly in from around the country to join us. And one of my favorite things that we do is the girls start a business on day 1 and sell the business on day 7. And what I mean by that is this year's business is a pop-up restaurant. So they're going to start a restaurant, literally name it, create the logo, create the experience, the menu, everything. So work on it for 7 days, market it. And then on the 7th day, we open tickets. People buy tickets, and they're going to do the pop-up restaurant. We sell 100 tickets. The community and parents can come and have this amazing experience that the girls completely created. So they're getting those it's just a platform for the girls to practice their skill sets, mindsets, leadership. We have 3 divisions that the girls can be in: front of the house, back of the house, or the marketing department. And they work on their business, and then they see all these community members. We get the mayor to come, some parents to come, and they have this 2-hour pop-up restaurant experience that they fully did themselves. I mean, it's just pretty extraordinary. And so that's one of the highlights of camp. And so it's just magical.
How fun. I want to be invited. I want to come to the
Come,
opening day. That sounds
come.
so awesome. The other
We,
thing I love about that is that, you know, women, we have an eye for beauty and detail and service. And
Mhm.
service is such a beautiful thing because that is the real definition of love, is dying to self. And so
Yeah,
to be able to create a beautiful experience for another person and to serve them with great love and care is, again, a skill that you
yeah,
do have to learn. It's just
yeah,
not innate. So you're
yeah.
developing that in kind of a fast track way in 7 days in Arizona. This sounds amazing.
It's fun.
Do you still have spots available for 2025?
We do. So we end our registration May 30th. And so registration for camp is open until then. And if not, get on the waiting list for next year. And it's for rising freshmen to rising seniors, so high school girls. And it's really the most life-changing experience that they can do. But my personality, I have 2 strong things about my personality. One, I'm very purpose driven in all this work, right? But I want everything to be fun. So that's the combination of everything I do. And camp, of course, we have water balloon fights and s'mores and the horses and the swimming and cooking class and just all the fun stuff of camp and all the leadership principles. They really leave equipped with these principles that they can not only use immediately in their life, but beyond high school. Again, helping our girls become successful adults. And one of the sayings that we say is leadership is an action, not a title. So I think a lot of it's just, again, women sometimes think, oh, I'll be a leader when I get that title, when I get that raise. It's like, no, no, no. Leadership is an action right now, right? How are you
Yes.
leading your life? How are you leading your money? How are you leading your health? That's leadership. And how are you leading your family, right? That's the
Yes.
essence of leadership. And so, that's one of the big things that we say to the girls. Don't you, just think leadership is being the captain of your team or the president of that club. You're a leader right now, first and foremost in your own life. And so she becomes this unstoppable force when she is equipped with that kind of narrative of like, I'm taking responsibility to lead my life, right? And the tools to do that. And that's what, for all kids, we need to equip them, especially right now when they're being so pulled off of the internet and influencers and, the phone addiction. So we've got to lean in as adults. Like I said, whether you're an aunt or a parent or a grandparent or just, a trusted adult in your own community, how can you lean in to kids today?
So good what you're doing for young women, Dina. I love it. I love it. Okay, my daughter's 10, but we will have to put her on the wait list for this because this
That's right.
sounds just fantastic. And I love that instead of just watching influencers on social media and just like consuming, right?
Yeah.
Content and looking at what other people are doing, you are engaging them and showing them that they are capable of building their own little brand and they're
That's right.
capable of serving at a great high level and
Yeah.
that they have what it takes to get them through hard times, right? and
Right.
and that translates to their life as wives and mothers, right? When they're
Totally.
in our position, it's
Yeah.
I think, so many times people think, well, women in leadership means that they're going to just sideline their husbands and run roughshod over them. No, good
Yeah.
leadership means recognizing when to allow your husband to lead
Right.
and really equipping him and empowering him to
Right.
step into his role as the
Yes.
leader of the family too.
Yes. Yes. And I do want to say that, back to the word and, because it is one of my favorite words, is um, it is important to understand your priorities. Faith comes first for me, parenting, then marriage, then my two businesses. And I stay very intentional around my self-care too, because we know we've got to fuel ourselves or we fall apart. And that's for another, I had a stroke at 27. So that's all for a whole nother episode. What I had to learn the hard way of not taking care of ourselves. But when you understand your priorities, and when your values are clear, decisions are easy. And one of my core values is faith first, then family, and I still can run two successful businesses. So, but I think when we get our priorities mixed up, it becomes all jumbled, right? You don't know your priority. And so it's really important to understand what are you putting first and then living that out. Like, does your schedule, if I looked at your calendar, does that reflect that, right?
Oh yeah, we talk about that all the time here at
Right?
Fame as a Character. God, spouse, kids,
Yeah.
because you started your
Yeah.
family with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the foundation of your family. And
Yeah.
then making sure that you have a united team. You
Hmm.
and your spouse are really doing things that make your child feel part of, Team Patton or Team
Yeah.
Langdon,
Right.
right? Is like, yes, I totally agree with you that the order of priorities matters and that
Yeah.
if we can't get that right or we continue to live our lives with that flipped on its head, then
Yeah.
everything else just unravels and work
Yeah.
becomes really hard.
Hmm.
Managing our businesses becomes, so difficult. Well, that's
Right.
because our relationship with our spouse and then our relationship with our kids are fractured and
Are
that's
fractured.
heavy
Right.
on us,
Right. Yeah, and it's very like I can't I can't do any of them well without God. So I have like I have to have that
Faith
connection. And
first.
yeah, I mean my 30-minute every morning prayer and meditation time and just getting my head and heart every day, and the more my two businesses grow, the more I am committed to that, and I think that's where a lot of people, they have God in their life, or they have workouts in their life, or self-care, mind, body, spirit, they're intentional. But then when life gets busy, all of that disintegrates. It's like, no, 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 no. You need more of that, right? The bigger we are, the bigger the family gets and the bigger the responsibilities get, the more you need God and self-care,
Yes.
right? And so that's the lesson that I had to learn. And I am non-negotiable around my faith time and my self-care time, because I'm the fuel to our family, to my businesses, to just living a life that is purposeful takes it takes a lot. And
It does.
and it's exhausting. So we've got to rest, we've got to refuel, so that we can go out and be a blessing to our company, to our family, to our community. So it's a lot, but again, it comes back to work in priority order. If you don't know your priorities, everything's going to collapse. And then that's where the overwhelm and the shame and just, you're in so much confusion. You can't get yourself out, right? So we've got to stop and say, what is my priority? And how
Right.
can I redo my schedule for this week, this month, this year to reflect my priorities? If you
Yes.
stop and do yourself, put a timer on for an hour and reset your calendar for the week, the month, the year inside of your priorities, and then pray over it and then do it.
Yes.
You're going to have a different life, because you're going to finally feel prioritized and
Right.
to your priorities. So it's important.
Totally is important. You got to find your true north. Where are
Yeah,
you pointing so that you can say no to all the trivial many,
that's it.
and you
That's
can say yes to the
it.
critical few. Okay. Well, this Wings to Fly summer camp is linked here in our show notes. So, folks, just scroll down underneath this episode so that you can click and find out more and register your teen daughter for this amazing camp in Arizona. Dena, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing your passion, your influence, and your faith and leadership to our show. And we wish you the best, and
Thank
just
you.
hope that you continue in these efforts to influence young women. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the conversation.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you know of people raising teen girls, please forward this on to them. Be sure that you're sharing these episodes with your own spouse so that you're hearing the same message and can have a conversation about it, but also to your friends out there too. We sure appreciate that. And we'll catch you on another episode of our show real soon. Be sure to parent with intention. Take care.